What's going on everyone, and welcome to this video tutorial. Recently AWS announced support for destination within AWS Lambda function for asynchronous invocation. So in this video I'm going to cover on AWS Lambda destination and how you can add destination within your Lambda function and how you can use it. So what exactly is destination within Lambda function? It is a new feature that allows you to gain visibility to asynchronous invocation results and route the result to an AWS service without writing a code. Right, so I know many of you will be aware of what asynchronous and synchronous invocation is, but for those who are not aware, let me try to explain. So for example, you have two Lambda function, let's say function 1 and function 2. Now the scenario is such that function 2 should be executed after function 1. So here what we can do within function 1 is that at the end of the function 1 code, we can write a line to invoke function 2, right? And here the function 2 does not return any response back. Right, so ideally function 1 does not wait for the response from function 2, right? So it's just that we invoke it and it's done. So function 1 does not wait for the function 2 to get completed or return the response. Well, that is asynchronous invocation. So if we look at this diagram, so here within asynchronous, so this is our function 1 and this is our function 2, right? So what will happen is we have write a line within the code at the end of function 1 or wherever within the function to invoke this function 2, right? So what it does is function 1 will not wait for function 2 to finish or get response from it, right? It will ideally just invoke the function and leave it there, and it will continue execution of rest of the code within function 1, right? So this is how asynchronous invocation work, right? Now coming to the synchronous invocation. So within synchronous invocation, let's assume function 1 and function 2 again. So for example, we are processing employee data, right? So in order to execute function 1 end to end, it require employee ID. So this is we are assuming. So function 1 will require employee ID to process rest of the code, right? So it's a dependency. And one can get the employee ID by executing function 2. So in this case, function 1 is dependent on function 2 for its response, which is employee ID, right? So within synchronous invocation, function 1 has to wait for function 2 to get executed and return the response, that is employee ID, by function 2, and then using that employee ID, function 1 can be executed further. Well, that is synchronous invocation. So if we look at this diagram, so what it will do is function 1 will invoke function 2, and now it's not going to execute the rest of the code, but instead it's going to wait for the response from function 2. So ideally it's going to wait for function 2 to be executed successfully and return the response. And once function 1 will get the response, it will further execute the rest of the code, right? So that's synchronous invocation. So I hope you got an idea about asynchronous invocation and synchronous invocation within Lambda function. So when you invoke a function synchronously, Lambda runs the function and waits for the response, right? So as it is waiting here, as you can see within this diagram, right? And when you invoke a function asynchronously, Lambda sends the event to a queue, and when the event is added to a queue, Lambda return a success response without additional information, right? So it just acknowledges that the function has been invoked successfully, or it is being sent to queue successfully, right? And no actual response from function 2 is being sent to function 1. Right, so I hope this makes sense. Ideally, within asynchronous invocation, we will not be able to identify whether the function executed successfully or not, or whether it is failed or it has processed the event successfully, right? So now to get that information whether the invocation is successful or it's unsuccessful, we can use Lambda destination. So destinations will help to send asynchronous function execution results to a destination resource without even writing a code, right? So that's going to be quite easy. And the function execution results include version, timestamp, request context, request payload, response context, and response payload, right? And here we can choose one service as a destination from 4 options. So that is, it can be another Lambda function or an SMS topic, an SQS standard queue, or it can be an event bridge, right? So I think I have overwhelmed you with a lot of theory, but not anymore. So now let's get started with some hands-on. Right, so here we will set up a simple S3 bucket trigger to invoke the Lambda function, and later we will add destination as another Lambda function. So well, let's see. So assuming that you already have logged in into AWS Management Console, so here we are going to create 2 Lambda function, one S3 bucket and one IAM role. So let's get started with creation of an IAM role. So navigate to IAM Management Console. So once you are here, click on roles, click on create role, select Lambda as a service because we are creating this IAM role for Lambda function. Now within policy, select Lambda execute and select AWS Lambda invocation DynamoDB. Right, so you can write custom policy for Lambda invocation, but I'm going to select this permission or this policy. So click on next tags, add a tag if you want, name Lambda invocation, click on next, review, give the role name. I will say Lambda destination and say create role. Now once the role is created, let's go ahead to S3 Management Console and create a bucket. So once you are here, click on create bucket, give it a name. I'll say Lambda destination tutorial and say create. And the bucket has been created successfully. Now navigate to Lambda Management Console, and here we are going to create 2 Lambda function. So function 1 is going to be triggered on file drop within S3 bucket, right? So let's create it. So I will say destination S3 trigger. Select runtime as Python 3.8. It is the latest version that is available recently. Then within execution role, select use an existing role and select the role that we have just created. So it's destination, that is Lambda underscore destination, and say create function. Now we are going to create another Lambda function. So I will name it as destination function, right? Select runtime as Python 3.8. Use an existing role. Select the same role, that is Lambda underscore destination, and say create function. Now come back to our main function or the first function, that is destination S3 trigger, right? So what I will do is I'm going to print an event over here and save this function. Now the key part comes to add a destination. So within designer panel on the right hand side, you will see this button that is add destination. So we are going to click on it. So what you see here is destination configuration. So it says send invocation records to a destination when your function is invoked asynchronously, or if your function processes records from a stream, right? So here within source, we are going to select asynchronous invocation because we are not streaming data to this Lambda function, right? So select asynchronous invocation. Now within condition, we have two options. That is, when should we call the destination, right? So is it on failure or is it on success? So let's select on success first. So now within destination, as I mentioned earlier, you can select one option from the four services, that is SQS queue, SNS topic, Lambda function, or event bridge, right? So here we have created two Lambda function. So we are going to paste in ARN of the destination Lambda function or the second Lambda function that we have created, right? So I want to invoke that Lambda function when the function executes successfully. So which function? That is destination S3 trigger, right? So paste that ARN. Now in case if you want to send an SMS whether a certain function executed successfully or not, then instead of the Lambda function ARN, you are going to create a topic within SNS service and paste that ARN over here, right? And same goes for event bridge and SQS. So all you need to create one and copy and paste the ARN over here. So in my case, I am selecting destination as another Lambda function. Now once this is configured, click on save. Now we have successfully added the destination within this Lambda function, right? So come back to destination S3 trigger. So we have event over here. Now what we need to do is we need to add a trigger. So select S3, select a bucket, Lambda destination tutorial. I will leave it rest of the option as it is and say add. Now we have added the destination, we have added the trigger. Now all we need to do is drop a file within that S3 bucket and we have to look for logs, right? So go back to S3 management console within that S3 bucket, that is Lambda destination tutorial. Now here I am going to drop a file, probably maybe an image file. So this is Call of Duty banner image for my another channel. Now the condition was that if this destination S3 trigger function executes successfully, then it should be able to trigger or execute this Lambda function, that is destination Lambda function. Sorry for the spelling mistake over here. Right, so now let's check the logs. So click on monitoring, click on view logs and CloudWatch. Now if the function has been executed successfully, then we will be able to see the logs over here, and it says we have the event over here. Now it should also be able to trigger this Lambda function, and this Lambda function should also have logs. So click on monitoring, say view logs in CloudWatch, and as you can see, there is a log over here, right? So maybe what we can do is we can print an event over here. So let's say print destination and say event. So I just want to show you that what all things we get in the event, right? So let's go ahead and re-upload or rename this file, and it should able to trigger the function. So going back to destination S3 trigger Lambda function, and we should have logs generated over here. So as you can see, the invocation has been started. and the function has been triggered successfully. Now let's check this logs again, which is logs for destination function. So this is the recent log 2203, and we should be having destination and event over here, right? So as I said earlier, it will give us version, timestamp, request context, right? And request payload and all those data from the source Lambda function, that is this one, destination S3 trigger, right? So now we have all the information about destination S3 trigger within this destination Lambda function, that is destination function, right? So you can see over here. So that is how you can add a destination, right? So now let's go back to our first Lambda function, that is destination S3 trigger, right? Go back to configuration. Now if we click on this destination, it says asynchronous invocation on success, then it should be able to invoke this destination function. Now we want to add one more destination saying on failure. So I'm going to keep the same ARN. So let's see if it is allowing to add the same destination for both condition, that is on success and on failure. So click on save, and I think it should allow, and yes. So now we have same ARN for condition saying on success execution or on failure execution, right? So now what I will do is I will add some random things that is not in the event. Maybe I will say event of sample, right? And sample is not available in the event, right? So it's going to throw an error saying key error sample, right? So save it. So now this Lambda function is going to fail after we will upload a file, right? And on failure, again, it should be able to invoke the destination Lambda function, that is destination function that we have created, right? So just to make things simple, I'm going to delete this logs for both Lambda function. So now let's go ahead and trigger that Lambda function. So I'm going to rename this file. I will say cod.png, right? So going back to destination S3 trigger CloudWatch logs. So here we have the log, and what does it say? Let's see. So it says error, key error, sample. So as I said earlier, it's going to give us the key error, right? So now it's going to re-invoke itself 2 more time. So as you can see, it's retrying itself. So ideally it will retry for 3 times. So this is the second time, and after that one more time it's going to retry, and post all the 3 retries it's going to trigger that destination function, right? So right now if we look at that destination function, the logs are empty, right? So the second time execution is completed, so second retry is completed ideally. Now it's going to try for the third time. So let's wait. So now the third retry has been started, right? Now post this retry, our destination Lambda function will be triggered. So as you can see, the third retry has been completed. So sometime it takes some time to populate the log. So that's the reason we were just seeing this start line and we are getting the logs over here. Right now, if I look at this logs, So it says destination and the event data, right? So if we look at this event, then here you will be able to find the stack trace, right? So it means it's giving the full trace back that why does it fail and whatever error it is throwing, right? So here within response payload you can find the error message and the error message, right? So this is how you can add the destination on certain condition, that is on success and on failure. So you can add only two destination, that is one is going to be on success and another is going to be on failure, right? So here within destination ARN, I have entered the same ARN of the same Lambda function, but it's not necessary that you also do that. So if you want something else to be executed on success, like SQS or SNS or some another Lambda function, then put the ARN of that thing within the destination. And if you want on failure, it should execute something else other than on success, then you can enter that ARN, right? So that's how you can use destination within your functions, and it's pretty much helpful to analyze if something is getting failed, right? So guys, let me know how do you find destination and how are you using it within your functions, right? So while wrapping up this tutorial here, but before that guys, please hit the subscribe button if you have still not subscribed to my channel, and if you are finding my tutorial useful, then please hit the like button too. Each like, subscribe and comment motivates me to do more and better each time. And as usual, if you want me to do tutorial on any use case or service, then please leave them below and I will try my best to come up with the tutorial as soon as possible. And if you have any queries or comments, then again please leave them below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.